a lot of the matches that he's giving 5 stars in AEW now wouldn't have gotten 5 stars before he changed the system. Like Best Friends versus Santana and Ortiz, there is no way in hell Dave would have given that match, just like a parking lot brawl, 5 stars before he changed the system, because he was very selective.
When it comes to star ratings for wrestling matches, some people are obsessed with them. Other people roll their eyes at them. Some people think they're subjective. Others think there's a standard that we can kind of all agree on to be within a 1/4 star or a 1/2 star of them. Dave Meltzer, the Wrestling Observer, obviously is well known for this. I remember back in like 1988 when I was early in my publishing of the Pro Wrestling Torch newsletter, calling Dave. Dave and I talked on the phone hours a week, multiple times a week back then. And he had started the Observer a few years before me. And I remember asking him, are there a certain number of bumps or moves that have to happen to earn a star? Like, I wasn't quite sure of the system. And Dave was like, no. It's just kind of what your gut tells you about the match compared to other matches. And it really is just, it's subjective, but you want to give a star rating that you think most people who enjoy wrestling for similar reasons to you would give a similar star rating to relative to other matches they see. So I've done star ratings for decades too, on major pay-per-view matches for the most part. And, I've taken heat for giving too many stars to some matches and not enough to others. And there's times most of the time I stand by my star ratings, but certainly there's times where I kind of relook at the match and I go, yeah, that I probably was wrong on that, and here's why I was thinking it, but good point. And so it's subjective. So the point of all this is, can the density of star ratings in AEW in its short existence, or can the number of 5-star matches that a wrestler has in this era be transferable to saying that wrestler or AEW is better than another territory or another wrestling company in previous eras? And that's where things get a little complicated. And we, on the VIP podcast, The Fix, with Todd Martin, that I host every week, it's a VIP exclusive show. We talk for about an hour and a half or so about current events, and then we do about an hour and a half or so of answering VIP member emails. This past Thursday, one of the VIP members asked about star ratings, and Todd Martin had a lot to say about them. Todd does not do star ratings, but he follows them, and he knows that they're a valuable kind of shorthand for saying, excellent match, you got to see it. Maybe one of the best matches of the year. Very good. Average, below average, awful. That's all it is. It's star ratings are just a shorthand for adjectives that give you a quick glimpse at, maybe you see results of a show, you see the star ratings, you're like, I don't have time to watch a whole show for 3 hours, but I've got 20 minutes and this match just got 4.5 stars. I need to watch this and see if I agree. So it's shorthand. But some people take it further than that and use it to define an era or a wrestler being better than another wrestler. So Todd had a lot to say about that. We're going to go to a snippet of last week's Fix mailbag. If you like, Todd's amazing. And if you like this clip, I encourage you to check out last week's Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Podcast flagship edition, because every 3 weeks we offer up the current events version of the Fix as the free show on the Wade Keller podcast. So search Wade Keller in your podcast app, and the current events version is available. The mailbag is almost always VIP exclusive, and it's fantastic. Todd put so much thought into it. His knowledge is amazing. He should be more well known for his analysis than he is, because he's that good. He should be a household name among wrestling fans who are into this kind of style of coverage. So I don't say that lightly. I don't say it about everybody. You'll get a sense of that here. And Todd's very engaging. We had a lot of fun talking about this. He does most of the talking. I tried to interject some things to kind of put some perspective on it, and Todd reacted to that too. So it's about a 15-minute clip from this past week's show. If you want to hear the Fix every week in its entirety, ad-free, including the mailbag, go VIP. pwtorch.com/govip. We'll give you full details on everything that comes with a membership, including Pro Wrestling Torch newsletters that I wrote and published back in the late 1980s through today, hundreds of retro radio shows from the 1990s, including ones I hosted and interviewed big names, 20 plus years of podcasts, and new content every day, and an ad-free website with news and commentary. So check that out if you haven't yet. We'd love to have you as a member. Let's now get to the clip of Todd Martin talking about star ratings. And when you're done with this video, like it and subscribe to our channel if you haven't, but also recommend this video to others. Publicize it on social media. I think it's going to stir some discussion based on how Todd framed this and what he had to say about the question that was posed to us. So let's get to it. All right, moving on. Dustin is back with not a question, but maybe something you could discuss. It's an interesting post concerning an objective fact about a subjective rating. On one of the daily casts, the host asked or said if Daniel Bryan had been having his WWE matches in AEW or New Japan, would he have 87 matches with 5 stars? There was a tweet about AEW now 3 matches away from having more 5-star matches than WCW and WWE combined. And someone else saying that's further proof AEW and Tony Khan are the best thing to ever happen to wrestling because they've produced as many top quality matches in 4 years that WWE and WCW did in 80 plus. By far the greatest North American company. Thank you, Tony Khan. Thank you, Kenny Omega. Thank you, Young Bucks. You saved an entire industry from the tyrannical monopoly of a rapist. Wow, that took a turn.
Sounds like a troll post, by the way.
2 factors at play. It does. AEW is massively tailored to the Observer 5-star scale, just like any influential rating system causes ripple effects in their industries, especially subjective ones, like the Parker has on the type of wines produced. Furthermore, Meltzer doesn't like WWE, so rates down even if the match tailors to him. Have a great summer, and then he follows up. The fact that there's a finisher named after Dave and he gives those guys a lot of stars shows the issue. This connects with my fixed comment about Will Ospreay having 100 5-star matches.
Okay, let's unpack here. And I've got an answer here that'll give that has something for everyone to hate. So you're gonna love it. So let me start by saying I don't buy the notion that like Dave is biased against WWE and these like ratings are a reflection of him just hating WWE and liking these other people more. I think the fact that he has tended to give more high star ratings to other companies than WWE over the years is grounded by the fact that the cutting edge, best of the best, creme de la creme pro wrestling matches have tended to be in other promotions than WWE. I don't think that's him being biased. I think that's just the reality. If you look, he, for years when he did the 5-star ratings was very selective about the 5 stars. And so he was holding back on doing it for all but the very best. And you can point to lots of really good WWF matches that he gave like 4 3/4 or 4.5 stars to. But you can also point to a lot of really good matches from other promotions that he gave 4.5 or 4 3/4 to. 5 was like something that he really held back on. And yes, those 5-star matches, for years tended to be congregated in All Japan, and Noah afterwards with the, Misawa, Kobashi, Kawada group. And then, All Japan women with Manami Toyota and Aja Kong and Bull Nakano and all of them. Akira Hokuto, if I didn't mention her. And then, New Japan in its later run with, Tanahashi and Okada and all of them. And, those have been the cutting edge, pro wrestling, in-ring matches of the last, 40 years. WWE has done its own thing and it's, more story oriented. The matches are more patterned and sort of they've got their style of doing things, built around finishers, built around the same moves. And if you look over, the long haul, I think you've gotten more, more elite matches in, other places than in than WWE. Now, do I think there's something to the idea that at times there's sort of an elitism to the idea of like, well, the 5 stars in Tokyo Dome or whatever, like the idea of like this is better because it's in this other place, sort of like the the movie critic that gives the higher ratings to the movie that isn't very fun to watch, but it's in a foreign language, or it's black and white, or it's got a very unique cinematography to it, and it's not a very movie that really resonates with people, but it's very artistic and gets high rating. I mean, maybe there's a little bit of that. I mean, I think it's more common that I look at a rating that Dave has from from Japan and I say that's probably a little high, then I say that's probably a little low. And I think it's more often that when it comes to the WWE rating, I say, well, that's probably a little low, then it's a little bit high. But I think by and large, he's got the idea right. Where the issue comes in with AEW and where he's gotten into trouble is the fact that he changed his rating system and won't admit it. And so there was the period before where, a 5-star rating was something that was very selective, and 4 3/4 and 4.5 were like really exemplary matches that were a little bit below. And then Okada and Omega 1 came along and he gave that 6 stars. And I thought at the time it was like, just like he'd done once or twice before, like, oh, I'm just flagging this as something, particularly special. But instead it was like, no, what I'm doing here is, standards have changed, wrestling has gotten better. And so now, like matches going forward are, we're just having all of these matches that are greater than anything that came before. And, that was sort of the explanation of it, as opposed to what I think pretty clearly happened, which is he thought, well, there are a lot of great matches here, and, there's a lot of attention for the 6-star match. And so I'll start, the matches before that were 4 3/4, 4.5, I'll give 5. And the matches before that I gave 5, I'll give 5.5 or 5 3/4 or 6 stars. And, I think he probably thinks that like the best of the matches now are, probably by and large a little bit better than before, but it changed the system. And the changing of the system happened to coincide with the rise of AEW. And so if you ask me, does it make sense that AEW during the time that it has existed gets more 5-star matches than WWE has during that time period? Then yes, that absolutely makes more sense to me, because I think that, even if you like the WWE product better, and, I think there are different elements of both of them. Last year I was arguing very forcefully about, the idea of Roman Reigns being the wrestler of the year because he was the one drawing the most money. He was the biggest star. His segments were really compelling in terms of the storytelling. But if you're just giving star ratings to the matches and trying to evaluate subjectively how exciting they are in the ring, I think AEW has had more super exciting matches than WWE has over the period that AEW has existed, because that's just the way that that's what their focus is. They're trying to do that. WWE isn't as focused on that and doesn't have as many of those matches. When you then get into the idea of, well, AEW has more 5-star matches than WWE ever has in all this time period, then it starts to sound ridiculous, because no, AEW has not had as many of the really best matches in the last 4 years as WWE has in its whole existence. And, Dave, won't acknowledge the point that he's changed the system. But if he did acknowledge the fact that he changed the system, it would be a defense of the whole thing in terms of like his fairness as a reviewer, because the system is different. You're comparing apples and oranges. So like a lot of the matches that he's giving 5 stars in AEW now wouldn't have gotten 5 stars before he changed the system. Like Best Friends versus Santana and Ortiz, there's no way in hell Dave would have given that match, just like a parking lot brawl, 5 stars before he changed the system, because he was very selective. Like he gave Brett and Owen at WrestleMania 10 4 3/4. Like he wouldn't have given Best Friends and Santana and Ortiz 5 stars. Like Adam Cole and the Bucks versus Christian Cage and Jurassic Express in a pay-per-view opener. Cody Rhodes versus Sammy Guevara. United Empire against Triangulo de la Muerte in a TV match. Like these matches wouldn't have gotten the stars under that system. So and then there are other matches, like Omega and Hangman versus the Bucks that would have. And then on the flip side, there are a bunch of old WWF matches that absolutely would have gotten 5 stars if they came along now. Brett versus Owen at WrestleMania 10, Benoit and Angle at the Rumble 03, Angle and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 21, Hunter versus Benoit versus Michaels at WrestleMania 20, Cactus Jack versus Triple H at the Royal Rumble 2000. There's no doubt in my mind that if those matches came along now, you'd give them 5 stars or better, because they were really exciting, best of the best matches, but he was holding back in terms of the system back then. So if you're trying to do an apples to apples comparison, you're looking at like if you're adjusting for the fact that he changed the system, then he gave WWE a lot more star ratings that were functionally 5 stars or better under the current system over that time period. It doesn't acknowledge it because he doesn't want to acknowledge for whatever reason that he changed the system. But like the reality in terms of like his fairness in evaluating these things, he absolutely gave WWE a lot more over the long haul, a lot more credit for having, more, creme de la creme matches, whatever you want to call them, 4 3/4 in 1994 and 5 stars in 2022. Like more of those have gone to WWE than have gone to AEW. The fact that it doesn't play out that way in terms of like the numbers on the sheet are just the fact that he changed the system. And so if you're trying to accuse him of bias, I think you have to factor in the fact that, again, it's an apples. It's not an apples to apples comparison because, the system back then was different than the system back then than the system is now. And so, I don't.
In a way, a little bit, it's like the booking when world titles changed hands really rapidly for a stretch of time, and people racked up, and beat Harley Race's record for NWA title reigns, and it just was like, well, that just doesn't matter. It's not. You don't go, well, Edge is now the same as Harley Race in terms of world titles, other than the number.
Yeah, I mean, I see why you're saying that, but it's a little bit different too because it is still kind of the same thing. Like a title reign is a title reign, whereas like here like the thing actually is a different thing. In my opinion,
I guess I would just push back a little, just saying a title reign. Having 7 title reigns, if it was, in the 60s, 70s to mid 80s era, was sort of a status symbol that you had the average length of the reigns was typically longer. The title changes really meant something. There was only one world title at that time in your company, and you were the chosen one. When you're in a company that the number of title changes per year is great. There's 2 world titles changing hands all the time. It's like the Dudley's tag team record. It's just ridiculous. It doesn't make them the best. It means they're part of an era of really bad booking. It means the connection is title reigns were devalued because the frequency of them and the context of them was different. So having 7 title reigns doesn't mean the same thing as having 7 title reigns in the previous era, just like a 5-star match doesn't mean the same thing in a 7-star era.
I understand what you're saying.
Just say you convinced me and move on.
I don't think the reason it's changed is because the stars have been devalued by the fact that there are more 5-star ratings. I don't because I mean yes there are more, but I don't think that's why. I think that a different thing is being evaluated. I think that before the way he was looking at it was, and you saw it by the paucity of 5-star matches, was if this is really, really good, but it isn't quite good enough, I'm just going to make it 4 3/4. And so those were like really, really good matches. Yes. But he just was holding back because 5-star was trying to be held for something that was really sort of elite, something really special. And then he just sort of reached a point where he just sort of flipped the switch. It was like, no, that's not the thing anymore. Now I'm not going to really hold it up. I like that Santana and Ortiz versus Best Friends match a lot. I'm just going to give it 5 stars because now I give, these different things. So it meant something different. And so like the 5.5, 5 3/4 meant something, 5.5, 5 3/4, 6 stars, 6.5, 7. That is the old, 5-star. And the 5-star now is the old 4 3/4 and 4.5. So when you get into this, you get into saying, oh look, Dave is and again, it's funny because again, this is a defense. I'm defending his fairness here. When you, which is why I really wish you would just acknowledge you changed the system, among other reasons. Such as that it's true.
There's that.
So when you say like Dave is biased, he's given more star ratings for AEW than he has for WWE, like in their history. That's ridiculous. Like how could someone that's doing that fairly suggest that AEW has had more of the best matches than WWE has? If you look at the history, I don't think he's even saying that. Like I think the system changed, and if you match them up with the equivalent of what he was thinking under the current system to what he was thinking in the system back then, WWE has a lot more of them than AEW has. So I don't think it's that he's being unfair to WWE. I think it's that he changed the system, and that gives an artificial sense of unfairness towards WWF and WWE that isn't merited. And if the things matched up, then I think it would be pretty fair as far as comparing how AEW and WWE compare, which is to say AEW has had more, 5-star and above matches in the last 4 years, but they deserve more five. Now, should it be so much they deserve more than the whole time of WWF WWE? No. But if you look back and you compare again, try to do more of an apples to apples thing, that isn't what he's done either. So like I really think it is just I mean, he set himself up. So, I mean, it's, if you just acknowledge what happened, then he wouldn't be in this conundrum. But like that line of attack is really just set up by the switch in the rating system, as opposed to a sort of fundamental unfairness in comparing WWF and WWE to AEW.
All right, so I want to know what you think about star ratings, and I want to know what you think of what Todd had to say about star ratings. In the comment section under this video, I read all the comments. I reply to a lot of them, and I really want to know what you guys think. I know there's a lot of diverse opinions on it. I enjoy hearing them. Like I said, I do star ratings. It's not something I take lightly, but it's also not something I take super seriously. I don't know if that makes sense, because I think it is just shorthand for going, I think that was a really good match. And I don't think it should be seen as a ton more than that. And there's a level of subjectivity. It's rare you'll see someone give 2 stars to a match that someone else gives 4 stars to, unless it's like a gimmick match where you really like a certain style match, a war game style match. And so they almost or a ladder match, almost by definition, it's going to be in the 4-star range for you if they just do it for 15 minutes. And so that's the case. But just a straight up match, I think there's a level of consistency to how people rate things. Usually they're within, like Dave Meltzer once called me, or we were talking on the phone. He goes, yeah, you gave a match 3/4 stars less or more than I did. And when you're within a 1/2 star, I don't think twice. But when we're like 3/4 stars off, I want to reevaluate my rating and kind of see what you saw or didn't see that I did. And that's it's kind of fun. It's a conversation starter. What do you think about star ratings? Do you ignore them? Do you live by them? Do you agree with mine when you read them in my pay-per-view reports at pwtorch.com? And do they compare era to era? As Todd Martin talked about, when you change the scale, do you think Dave Meltzer should have done that? Do you think there should still be a hard 5-star scale? 5 stars is a infrequent, clear match of the year candidate, state of the art for its era. Or is 5 stars meaning it would have been state-of-the-art in another era, but things have advanced, so now we need to add a star or two in order to properly represent this match? Spoiler alert, I mean, I like the 5-star scale, locked in at 5, and I think you adjust for the era. And I think it's inherent. If a match in 2023 is 4.25 stars, it probably would have been 5 stars 25 years ago. A 4-star match 25 years ago, 30 years ago, probably would be rated a little lower now based on the advancement of the style. But I still think you stick by 5 stars. That's my thought. What do you think? Also, as I mentioned earlier, if you like this video, if you enjoyed this video, please like it. Please subscribe to our channel and comment below. And also hit the bell so that when we put up new videos, you'll get notified. And then you won't be missing out on them when we do put new videos up. I am Wade Keller from Pro Wrestling Torch. pwtorch.com is my website. I do a bunch of podcasts. You can search Wade Keller on your podcast app and subscribe. We got a weekly flagship on our Blue Logo show. And then I do live post shows after Raw, Dynamite, SmackDown, and Collision every week also on the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show. You can download the shows and listen. You can also live stream them. The links to the live post shows can be found at pwtorch.com in my TV reports. So I cover those 4 main shows live on the website with written reports at the top and bottom. I include the link to the live stream. You are formally invited to join us, listen live, and call or email the show. All right, so that'll do it for me for today. Thanks, everybody, and we will talk to you next time on this channel.